Hi everyone, personal branding has been on everyone's mind recently, especially here in mainland China. I've been talking about personal branding for a number of years now, especially in the corporate world, more so recently as an entrepreneur. I'm here in Causeway Bay in Hong Kong to speak to Tracy Ho, who's taken personal branding to another level, starting her company 6 years ago. Let's go find out what we can learn from her.
Hi and welcome. This is my first time meeting Tracy. I met Tracy on LinkedIn many months ago during COVID, and the magic of LinkedIn is that you meet people online and then you get to meet them in person, and when you meet them in person they're more wonderful than they really are. So Tracy, welcome, and welcome me to Hong Kong. Just want really to say hello to you and for you to give us a brief background of who you are and what Frame&Fame is.
Thank you, Will, and yes, welcome to Hong Kong. It's really good to meet in person. Speaking of person, I do personal branding. My name is Tracy Ho, and my business name is Frame&Fame Personal Branding. To start with, let me explain the business name. When I started, we focused working with startup owners because that personal branding is seen as a very funky new buzz. It's a buzzword that nobody really knows what it is. So I targeted startup owners who want to build the business, gather investors' trust through their own brand. Then frame is a word that works across message, image, and perception. So Frame&Fame meaning that we frame your message, your image, like your outfit, your appearance, as well as frame ultimately the perception that people have on you, so then you earn the fame. So that is a personal branding business.
Okay.
That is how I started. And why I start that, I've always been a brand storyteller. When I was a kid, I would go on stage to tell stories, and then when I was a secondary school teenager, then I was a debater. Then in university, I love interacting, communicating with people overseas, different cultural backgrounds to get projects and stuff. Then when I graduate, I stepped into my journalism. So I was a video journalist actually, so that's why I love filming.
Right.
And then I pivoted to PR and corp comms. Most recently, I was in corporate communications world for finance and institutional businesses. When I was working with these guys, managing their reputation in Asia Pac, for example, like messaging, when the CEO flew to Asia, we will arrange a huge press tour for them, and then in case anything happened, firing or issues, then we manage that, town halls, etc. So then we work with the companies as well as their spokespeople in front of their audience. Could be media, could be staff, could be clients, etc. And that inspired me in what I do. For personal branding, you don't need an entrance barrier, I must say.
Oh, really?
So then, it's a good or bad thing. So I pivoted from corporate communications to personal branding. When I first started.
How long ago was that?
It was 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
And but I had the idea more than that. I had an idea. I was thinking about that idea for almost a year before I resigned to do that.
Okay.
And when I first did it, nobody at all gave me positive feedback from friends, families, or my business partners. Because nobody understands this idea in Asia. Even now, it's still a new idea.
The concept of personal branding in Asia, they didn't understand.
Correct.
Okay.
I remember one time a businessman told me, "Hey Tracy, if it is a successful idea, someone will have done it already years ago. So if there's nobody doing it,
there must
there's
be a reason." Yes.
Exactly. So then they say perhaps it's not business or financially viable. That you couldn't find clients. People don't understand the concept. People won't buy your service. So yes, it's like that. Then that's why some friends would make a bet. I think I give it 3 months. I give it 6 months. You'll go back to a bank or hackathons.
6 months later. 6 years later, not 6 months later.
Correct. I would say it's my passion. To be honest, I'm not here to say, hey, I need to build a big business or empire, but I really have a passion to help people to get their story heard. And I enjoy and I really enjoy working with people. That's why, good to see you in person, and coaching brings us back, right?
Yeah.
Bring us together. So by coaching, meaning I really develop people, not only their brand, but their mindset, the communication part. So yeah, I would say my passion has been the biggest driver to bring me from there to where I am today.
Yeah. So I sense a lot of passion coming from you, and I kind of feel a lot of charisma and executive presence coming from you as well, and maybe that's your corporate image or your background that you've had. And I know that Frame&Fame also looks at executive presence. So can you tell us a little bit around executive presence? Because lots of people think executive presence means just dressing well and speaking really, really well, and building this kind of image around yourself. But it's more than that, isn't it?
Totally. Many people think executive presence meaning suit up, correct? Whereas suit meaning that you're an executive, or get a nice Mont Blanc bags and pants. It's not like that. It's more than that, I would say. Still, being, I would say, looking nice, it's the very first step. So I would say there are 3 tiers to build your executive presence,
Right.
easier to remember. First is your appearance, your outlook, your outfit, everything that people see you on. Okay, so from your hairstyle, how you getting your makeup done, your outfit, what sort of things you wear, even the colors, everything counts.
Yes.
And then the second one will be your communication, your messages, how you get your message across. For example, what words to use, what words to avoid, and how to communicate in different cultures or across generations. Sometimes people think I need to be authoritative to have good executive presence. I wouldn't say this is...
It's not necessarily true.
It's not necessarily true. It's about being able to relate to people you work with. Then they respect you and they trust you by your communications, by your presence. And then the third tier, it's the most important one, or it's the hardest to grasp.
Okay.
It's about your mindset, and it's also about how you compose and conduct yourself in different situations. We always say that everybody can be a great leader in good times, but during the bad times like recession, firing, crisis, then you see the real leader evolves.
So there's a concept that we have is peacetime leader and wartime leader.
Exactly.
So people who lead through peace times are great, but when there's a war and it's chaotic or VUCA, then that executive presence comes out a little bit more. So there's 3 tiers of the good old traditional first impressions. I mean, I'm wearing a black shirt, but then ripped shorts, jeans. Maybe in a bank, this may not be an executive presence.
Yeah.
But there's certain clients that I see, this would be perfect for them, because then it's that, how do I conduct my presence with that person? So it really relates to what industry, file and rank, and how you conduct and speak to yourself. But the highest level is that mentality. So how would you train that mentality, Tracy? Is it something that is natural, or is it something that can be scripted and sculpted?
Interesting question, I would say, Will. First of all, there are 2 prerequisites when we come to executive presence. When clients come to us, I always ask them 2 questions before we really sign them up.
Right.
One is, do you have a clear career goal or objectives, either business or career, all right? Do you know where you want to head to? Then second thing is, do you know who you want to target? Your target audience. It could be your clients, it could be your staff, it could be your boss. You want to have a clear suite of audience and a goal to then aim to build your executive presence. The good news is executive presence can be trained and improved.
Right.
Everybody comes with a certain level of presence, but by being self-aware, by being sensitive to what you have and what others expect on you, then you can do some tweaks by consistent efforts, right? But interestingly, executive presence is even another new word in our region, in Asia or China.
Is there a Chinese term for it?
Funny you bring this up, because when we do we do have Chinese clients, so sometimes I need to translate my content, and
Okay.
I work with one professional translator. We were talking about how to translate executive presence in a way that grabs the essence of it, and our vocabulary is not at all related. So then it's like the word coaching. I do think coaching is also hard to be translated.
It's not 教練 or 教練, and
but it's not that thing, right?
No, it's not.
We translate like that, but then the meaning of it is deeper, I would say. So
Right.
similar to exec presence, you can say now it's like 风范, 领导风范, 风范 or something like that.
風範 is like charisma.
Yeah, but then so that's why executive presence is more than that. But some of my Chinese clients, they would relate executive presence or put an equal sign with leadership. You can argue that, okay, I would tell them good leaders have good executive presence, but good executive presence doesn't mean
You're a leader.
yeah.
That's important.
Am I correct?
Yeah. So
did I do the other way around? Sorry.
No.
Correct?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Because it almost, given that example of what equals what, how is executive presence equal? So is that not equal to sales? Is it like personal branding? Is that not equal to sales or KOL? Is that not the same thing, or are they different things?
Correct. First of all, what personal branding is, someone would say, is it like KOL? Or it doesn't matter to me because I'm not a KOL. I'm not an influencer. I'm not selling online. Everybody has a brand, regardless you like it or not. I always joke, even my primary school daughter, she has a brand because that is how she talks about people, and her friends would talk about her. It is how people perceive you, regardless you like it or not. So you better take charge of it in case you want to be seen, be heard, and be known as the person you want in the workplace specifically.
So it's taking control of how others perceive you.
Exactly, and in a consistent, concise, and even strategic way.
Yeah.
That is a personal branding. But then, if you are an executive in the company or in your business, so then you want to demonstrate that presence in your workplace, right? So sometimes we use these two terms interchangeably, but of course, those who are not executives will not use the word executive presence. In an executive space, if you want to be seen as a real leader, if you really want to be seen as someone have the material to rise to the top job, or you want to be treated seriously, then you want to nurture executive presence. As I mentioned, to first of all make sure you look professional or to the way that people expect you.
Right.
Like what you said, for startup owners, they may not need to be stood up. For bankers, maybe you want to, because again, it's about perception and expectation. You want to fill that gaps. Then the second thing is have the exact messaging that you want and consistently nurture it.
Right.
Sometimes people think, do I need two brands? Like I can be a nice guy at home and I can be a authoritative boss in the office. That is not
But that's
advisable.
one.
You should only have
still.
one brand.
That still is one brand. It's
Yeah.
how you behave in those situations.
Correct.
So, when you said startup and corporate, I was thinking of Mark Zuckerberg, who has a consistent brand.
Yeah.
Okay, and he leads it's not a startup anymore. And then you have Legrand, and she's consistent. So the words I picked up on was consistency, and I know that for Frame&Fame, you have is be seen, be heard, be known, and the known part is the most challenging part because that's the ultimate brand, isn't it? What are they saying when you're not in the room?
Yeah. That's why it takes time. And even in coaching perspective, we always advise clients, if you really want to see a change, you need like half a year.
So it's not an overnight job. You come and see Tracy, tomorrow you're a changed person. That's not how it works.
Correct. I can share with you an
How does it work?
example. One of my clients, she's a lady engineer in a huge...
An engineer.
Engineer.
Engineer, okay.
Lady engineer.
A lady engineer.
And
Wow.
lady engineer.
Wow.
And so that's why she told me, like, since university, she never needed, she felt she didn't need to dress up. Because
Okay. Why?
all
Because she's
her-
an engineer.
Yeah, and then she thought, nobody cared. And then, but when she progressed in her career, and then she specialized in sustainability engineering.
Right.
Then she worked in a Fortune 500 firm, and then she led a big team. It was all fine until a point that she realized, oh, she needs to work on her executive presence. Why? Because one time that a new counterpart came to the company from the US, and then she suddenly felt not threatened, but the boss recognition really went to the other side, whereby the workload still on her side. So she felt underpaid, underheard, and overworked.
It sounds like a lot of people in most industries that I know.
Correct.
And the credit goes to someone else because they have a better executive presence.
Yes. So then she didn't know, and she didn't came and say, hey, I want executive presence.
Okay.
She just heard about me, and then we had a coffee, and then I sort of gave her some ideas how we can help her.
Right.
Literally all through that 3 years, we
Okay.
worked with her on advising how to make use of color, outfit, changing hairstyle, changing her shoes. Instead of backpack, she needed to change to a handbag, and a laptop instead of a big square-ish boxy type of backpack, because otherwise, she's a petite person,
Okay.
so you don't want a big backpack that looks like,
That is overbearing.
And then we redid her LinkedIn profile pictures, her CV, so then she
Wow.
looked on paper as a knowledgeable, credible, and professional engineer.
Okay.
Then and then the communication and executive presence or the mindset work was interesting part, because
This would be the most difficult part, I think.
yeah, that takes time. It was like 6 months coaching journey for her, and she needed to do a lot of homework, give examples, be super self-aware, when she needs to assert herself, how to lead her team, how to get herself heard, giving feedback to the
So
teammates.
this was really pushing her boundaries of
Yeah.
doing to understand herself and kind of recrafting her own brand.
Exactly, and to a point that she told me at the end of the coaching journey, she said the biggest thing she changed is she now know where and when and how she should assert herself.
Right.
And setting boundaries. I
Okay.
think setting clear boundaries was one of her key learnings, and it's something that we were never get told in school.
Boundaries.
Right? Particularly in Asia, right? We need to be a nice person. We need to do more, but doing more doesn't mean you get more credits.
But you have to be humble about it as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
in the Confucian kind of world, right?
Yes.
We were taught when we were a kid that you shouldn't brag about your achievements. Then that sort of sank into this lady mind that she was not able to stand up for herself, whereby her counterpart was very upfront and then pushed for whatever they wanted in the boss' eye. So then give 3 months time, she saw a huge difference.
Some of the viewers might be asking a question that's on my mind right now, Tracy, which would be, A, was she comfortable with her final personal brand, and B, were the people around her comfortable with this transition? Because that sounds like a big shift.
Yes, and it will never end, to be honest. I always say personal branding is a journey. It sticks with you. As long as you are there, your brand is there, okay? So then your executive presence or your personal brand will stay. And it should be consistent. Particularly, for example, if today you stood up for yourself and tomorrow you become timid, then it's not working.
Okay.
Then, so it's not ending. Then how people around her, see. Of course, people sees she looked different. It's the very first thing she said. Even her husband at that time, gave a wow. It's a huge change.
Right.
And then, but to her, the important changes came when she were able to delegate, work with her team to make sure everybody felt heard. So by being seen as a real leader, you can't only bear everything.
Yeah.
You need to say no in front of the boss. You need to stand up for your colleagues as well, and then you can manage them, coach them, so then they trust you as their team
And they
leader.
grow together as well.
Exactly.
And coming to your point about it's a journey, what it sounds to me sounds like, so during this period, during transition, she transitioned to who she wants to be known for and behave and conduct herself and communicate. And over time, she's consistently behaving that. Then when people meet her in this period, that's her brand, and then she's comfortable with that, and that's who she is from now on. Or
You
that's
can
how
say so.
she gives the perception of who she wants to be.
Yes, you can say so. And of course, we are not tweaking we are not transforming her away from her real self.
Yes.
What I always say is that you need to know what your personality is, because by working on your presence, it's you. You are the core of your brand. So we are not tweaking, or we want to respect your approach.
You're helping them control their narrative, and the narrative's up to them.
We will give them advice, how, particularly on the messaging perspective,
Right.
how to word it. Like yesterday, I was coaching a doctor, a senior consultant doctor. He's pivoted to a different path, and then it's about owning his narrative. A doctor never owns their narrative, right? It's about taking care of patients. To a point when you need to build that profession to a business, then you want to own a narrative. Why you want to be a doctor? How you are different versus other specialized doctor.
There's so many doctors in Hong Kong. How do you pick?
So then how you relate to your audience? Go back to the audience.
Yes. Okay. And in 2022, this year, Frame&Fame won the Best Personal Branding and Imaging Consultancy Award. So 6 years later, you won this award, and obviously there's competition, otherwise you wouldn't win it. What clients are you seeing that's giving you endorsement and recommending you in order for you to win this award? And it's a long question. And what's the proudest moment when you picked up this award for Frame&Fame and the team?
I would say the proudest moment is we're still here.
Right.
Because, as I mentioned, some friends said, give you 6 months, right?
3 months and now 6 years later.
Yeah, I would say, so we are being also persistent and consistent in what we do. Although our approaches, our services changed a little bit, or, widened a little bit throughout the time, but we are still, core is personal branding.
Because you started with startups and now it's quite diverse.
Correct. Okay. And we are now industry agnostic. People come from different backgrounds, different industries, but we have a very clear niche. I think that is why we get this award, because when we were approached and we need to submit a story, right, our case, and we are by default the leading personal branding and image consultancy here in Asia as a whole. But you can see image consultants everywhere, or you can say communication consultants everywhere, but then we really dedicate and commit to serve people on that communication and image. So I think, 2 years before when COVID first started, I used that time to enrich our services. So we added image consulting, business etiquette, as well as dining etiquette, multicultural communication aspects into our service offerings.
Right.
It was triggered or inspired by my international executive clients who have a much wider needs. Like that lady, we really need to consult her how to dress up. So I really want to learn and give her professional advice. Okay. So then we add that in.
Okay.
And business or dining, social etiquette, we are always asked. So we now package it specifically for that type of clients.
Right.
And multicultural and multi-generational communication is another new thing I got questioned.
A lot of need for that. I get approached for that a lot in China around cultural communications. And I don't really believe that communication should be cultural. It's how you conduct yourself, understanding what the discussion points are. And that's in China. So do you see that there's also a big need for this in the mainland, because you started off with APAC in Hong Kong specifically. What's your views about what you do, Frame&Fame, in China, in the mainland? How does that inspire you to move into that part of the world?
Yeah, I would say when I started my business, one of the biggest driver was I want to be geographically mobile.
Right.
So by being attached to a job, it will not be that easy.
Yes.
So then it is personal goal. Okay, I really want to be, traveling, working anywhere, anytime. So I wouldn't say that we want to enter whatever markets, because to me, everywhere you have people, right? So then, to me, going to China is a natural step because we speak Chinese, right? We still conduct coaching, consulting, training in Mandarin, English, and Cantonese. Yes. That's a natural fit. Unfortunately, of course, COVID gave us a little hiccup.
Yep.
We really want to go in, otherwise I wouldn't, contact you in China. And from time to time, I still got inquiries from Shanghai, Beijing offices to talk about creating programs for the executives, both male and female, on working on the executive presence. So we did virtually, of course, for the past 2 years. And they would ask a few areas. One is image. Giving image consulting or styling advice, how to help these executives in China to work on, from their outfit, color, etc., to really demonstrate that presence, right? Then the second thing is about the sensitivity towards cultural differences. I would say multicultural communication is one of the areas we got asked pretty often. How, Asian faces or Asian managers to be self-aware and conduct themselves and communicate to different cultural people. Then the last thing we also got asked is about etiquette. Sometimes etiquette is not a word that's been taught enough within Asian or Chinese communities.
You talk about business etiquette.
Yeah, business etiquette. Like how to conduct yourself when you imagine now you're flying to Abu Dhabi tomorrow to meet your clients. What you should bring, what gift to give, right? Or is gifting allowed?
Allowed.
Yes.
And anti-bribery.
Or how about you fly to Japan tomorrow to talk about projects? Do you push or not? Then, or while you are in Germany, how about you meeting Americans or South American managers, or when everybody in the room, how to negotiate? So these are the little elements we will sometimes consult or advise or train my clients on.
Interesting. So, I mean, we're going to be staying in touch, definitely.
Definitely.
I think there's lots of merit on what I've heard today from you, Tracy, around, females and male be seen and having that executive presence, that cultural communication that you mentioned, and that etiquette. What I'm seeing in China is China's evolved in the last 10 years far greatly than what Westerners see, because I've been there in that cauldron for many years now, and there's lots of young individuals, females coming up through the ranks. There's been a void of expats because of COVID, where suddenly they're stepping up, and I think this is where Frame&Fame and Tracy, you can really support that. But also I've seen a big surge in people taking MBAs and EMBAs.
True.
Where I think now that they're pivoting, how do they prepare themselves for that change in their career? And I think this is where you could really help. So just to end today's discussion, what advice would you give to the people that I just spoke about in mainland China or anywhere in the world to help them kind of be a little bit more confident, understand that they can have a personal brand?
Excellent, thank you, Will. Very often we're in Asia or Hong Kong, you're in Guangzhou or anywhere in the Chinese cities, we see people from different places and we want to demonstrate ourselves. Sometimes we may not have that mindset yet, but it's workable, it's trainable. What I really want to share a message here is we are Chinese, we should be proud of it, correct? And we shouldn't, be too humbled or position ourselves lower than other cultures. We have our own cultural background, we are who we are. So regardless where we're from, be genuine to ourselves, build our authentic self. That is always the key to success when you build your brand.
Yeah, authentic self. Great. That's a great ending. Tracy, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful speaking with you and learning about you. And I look really forward to working with Frame&Fame, not just in Hong Kong and mainland, but globally, and to the next 60 years for you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you.